What is up, all you curious minds? This is Nate Knight Talks, and tonight I'm going to be interviewing one of the top hackers in the world. His name is Jonathan Scott, aka Data, aka Jonathan Data 1, for those of you who want his social media handles, as well as his actual hacker name. Now, Jonathan is going to be sharing a whole lot of crazy things with us tonight as it pertains to the world of hacking and cybersecurity in general. He is not only a hacker, as I previously stated, he is also an entrepreneur, cybersecurity's expert, as well as an asset for the intelligence agencies whenever they call upon him. So we're going to dive in. It's going to be a wild episode, I am sure, and it is going to be part one in a series of I don't know how many parts, as long as it takes for us to get all of this information out, which is incredibly vital for you all to know, because technology is our lives today. Our phones are an extension of us, and with the metaverse and everything coming, what he has to say is exponentially more important. So buckle up, get ready, and without further ado, I'm Nate. It's late. Let's talk. Data, what's up, man?
Hey,
how you doing?
What's up? What's up? I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Been a while.
Yeah, it's been it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. If y'all only knew the backstory of the laughter,
well,
it's been a while. I
got
a haircut.
God damn it.
This is good already.
We're already off to a great start. For those of you who tune into Clubhouse in the Nate Night Talks rooms for many, many moons, you're quite familiar with Data as the top 5, top 4, top 1. It really varies hacker in the world. And he has been a wealth of information, a wealth of declassified documentation, a wealth of insight. You've added a tremendous amount to every one of those Clubhouse rooms, man, and I'm super grateful for it, and people absolutely love you on there. For people who are, just new to the podcast itself and are only, watching this for the first time on YouTube or Spotify or wherever, Apple Music, Data is a legend. We'll start. We're just going to jump right in, honestly, because the first thing I think people are going to want to know are your credentials. They're going to want to know if you're legit before we dive into all of the crazy shit we're going to talk about tonight. And so I think giving a little bit of a explanation of that, about your backstory as far as how that ranking works, who authors that ranking, just so people right off the bat can know that you are legitimate and that everything that is going to follow is absolutely factual. So let's just start with that and with the ranking. And great to see you, man.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So I guess education wise, I suppose it's probably not that important, but just I'll drop that in there. Have a bachelor's in philosophy, master's in computer science, specializing in security engineering, and then working on my doctorate in computer science currently. Honestly, these days, I guess schooling is kind of doesn't really matter, right? It's all about can you do the work and can you prove that you can do the work, right? I think for myself, even just for schooling though, I just kind of my personal life goals, right? That I wanted to complete, every tier of the education system, I suppose, and go to school for like 40 years. That's what was my goal. One of my goals, at least.
And then work at Starbucks. After $300,000.
That's pretty much what's going to happen after this podcast. It's all going to go downhill from there. It's all the secrets are going to come out. So my hacker ranking is something, all these things are public, right? It's funny though, actually. Like there was a Twitter troll that was like, you don't have a master's in computer science. And I'm like, I mean, you can pay go to Colorado Tech and pay for the information if you want to, because it's public record, anyways.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, just to harp on really quick is that, and Dave and I have had many conversations about this in the past, about the scam of education. Not to say that a legitimate education isn't good, especially if you're going to be in a specialized field. If you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, it makes sense. But going to school for the sake of going to school, or even to universities, which are just an indoctrination factory, most people never use their degree at all in their real career. Whatever they end up going into is pretty much useless unless they're specialized. And there's this stigma, which I know you've encountered, that despite your credentials, despite all of the crazy things that you have done in the hacking world, and despite that ranking, people are like, oh, yeah, but you don't have your doctorate. Like, man, seriously, kick rocks. And you know,
exactly.
my brother, same thing, bachelor's in
Mm-hmm.
computer science. And now the founder, CEO of 5 biotech companies where triple PhDs are the ones who listen to him. And not every great person, but many of the great people throughout time who revolutionized the world dropped out of college because intelligence is intelligence. And you can, accomplish amazing things if you're driven and focused and passionate about something. You get a better education in that than you ever would for, various classes and courses that you take in random subjects in college to get a piece of paper that doesn't work.
100%.
I know you've been battling that, but I take my hat off to you because I know the reason why you're doing it, and
Exactly.
and that's a gauntlet that is commendable. But also, you don't need to do it. I know why you're doing it, but like your accomplishments in your intelligence within this field is better than people who would have that degree and done nothing with it type thing. But anyway, I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. And one of the things that I tell people too is even like I would recommend you get a certificate in this, in cybersecurity certificates, anything of the, within this field rather than a degree, right? Because a degree doesn't force you to actually have continuing education. But these certificates, in order to maintain your license or certificate, you've got to have X amount of credits to maintain this, or you have to retake the test. I mean, to me, it's a lot more credible. By the way, so the hacker ranking is really no, it's all good. The hacker ranking is comes from HackerOne, which is a bug bounty program, which is in essence. So let's just take a company like Verizon. They want to actually test their systems and see if what they put together as far as a web application or an iPhone app or an Android app is secure enough for the people. And so they say, all right, hackers, go ahead and break into these applications, and if you can find security holes, we'll pay you money. And so this is where these bug bounty programs come in, and they give you this what's called a safe harbor, which is a kind of a pass to hack these systems without repercussion, as long as you stay within their bounds. Now, so HackerOne is where I was hacking, and
you said it's called a bug bounty system.
Yeah, bug bounty program. Yeah, platform program, whatnot, but it's a bug bounty. So I was number one in the U.S. July, August, September. So they have these every 90 days. They reset their rankings, and so give people a chance. Otherwise, people will never have a chance against some of the top guys. And so it's all about how many bugs can you find, and you get points based off of these bugs, and then you climb these ranks amongst thousands and thousands of people around the world. So for this 90-day period, I was number one in the U.S. and number 4 in the world. This was this year, 2021, and you can still see the ranking. It's hackerone.com/leaderboard, and then at the top right, you can actually click on the whatever quarter it was, probably last quarter. With that said, I climbed the ranks pretty quickly, and then I got dismissed really quickly as well. I got kicked off the platform quickly, which is funny because I still maintained number one ranking even while I was banned from the platform. No one was able to actually kick me out of the number one spot in the U.S., which is a tell, right? It's telling because look, there was just the I guess we'll get into the Twitter trolls later, but it's but the point, the reason why I was kicked off was for exposing a vulnerability. Well, we'll start from a little bit from the beginning. I had reported a vulnerability to Yahoo Business, which is owned by Verizon Media. It was at the time, which is a couple months ago, and so I found that W9 information was leaking on servers, on these Yahoo Business servers. And of course, W9 tax information is very sensitive. I mean, you're talking about names, addresses, tax IDs, things like that. I mean, just super sensitive information that you don't want out there. And it was confirmed. These vulnerabilities were confirmed by HackerOne and by Verizon Media. They said, yes, this is valid. These are real things. And then 2 days before Apollo Capital acquired Yahoo Business, they say, you know what, this isn't it's not a vulnerability. This is a privacy issue. So we're going to mark this bug as informational. And so they closed out everything. So they said, this is just informational. This is not a security issue. But, and not to get too technical, essentially, if something is leaking, like if data is leaking from a server, you have a server issue. Yeah. Right. You have this is a security issue, security vulnerability. And not was it just leaking from one place, it was leaking from multiple servers. So this one, let's just take one W9 document, was being replicated over multiple servers. So basically you're taking a copy and then creating a copy and then creating a copy and then creating a copy, and then saying that they don't have any issues with their server. And these servers were not secured, by the way. Like, you know, the little lock at the top that you see in websites? Yeah. Like, oh, we must make sure it has a little lock. Yeah, their servers, this is Verizon servers. They didn't have that little lock. And then, of course, telling me this isn't a security issue. So I actually get into a big Twitter war with the Twitter bros on this one. And this is really kind of crazy because they were saying this is not an issue. This is not a security vulnerability, right? And so like the trolls just came out. But here's the kick. After a month, and then of course after a good week and a half of the Twitter trolls saying this is stupid, you're not a real researcher, and then getting kicked off of HackerOne, of course Verizon fixes the issue and doesn't pay a bounty. And I get kicked off of HackerOne.com, and the second largest bug bounty program in the world is called BugCrowd. I get sent a letter from BugCrowd saying, you're kicked off of our platform for your behavior on somebody else's platform. This is real life.
Wait. So,
and yeah,
keep going. I'll ask in a second.
That's fine. So I get kicked off of the two world's largest bug bounty platforms. And the second one, I did nothing wrong on maybe HackerOne. I disclosed something that they said was not an issue. What's the problem? Why would you kick me off? If you claimed that this is not a vulnerability, why would you kick me off of your platform? That's the real question.
So who votes on that? Like, so, I mean, so there's the bounty program. And I'm sure this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of people, because I know it did to me, because you typically think of hackers as people who literally have to hide their identity. Nobody can know who I am. If people find out that I'm gone. But in reality, it's quite different. This is a public, open, almost collective of hackers who are out in the open, who are among the best in the world. Yep. And they are openly doing this, and companies are hiring them to do this. It's gone are the days of Angelina Jolie hackers, in the 1990s. The hacking world's changed clearly just by the fact that this even exists. And I think there's even hacking competitions too, right? That you've won those things as well. Yep. But so within the HackerOne thing, is it voted on by, are there admins to it, or is it just all the hackers who are a part of it? How does this get tallied to a point that people can actually vote or kick you out because they disagree with something being a security issue?
It's a bureaucracy, really. It's a bureaucracy.
Like
right?
all things.
Like all things, exactly. They, it's their company, right? It's 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 a privately held company. So whatever rules that they want to set on the fly, or whatever they don't agree with, or whatever they, that's their prerogative, right? That's it. They do what they want. And I didn't appeal. I didn't appeal it. I just publicly put them on blast, and then it actually sparked a movement, a pretty big movement, because not only was I wasn't the only one that had been kicked off in this manner. A lot of other really great hackers around the world had been kicked off, and it allowed a lot of people to come forward and actually talk about the truth about these programs. So, and I posted a lot of videos about the truths about these programs too. So what happens is they'll steal your bugs, right? So HackerOne and Bug Crowd specifically, right? These two platforms, there's so much illicit, activity happening within these programs. It'll disgust you just to know truly what's happening. And I'm just going to even scratch the surface. So, for example, in my case, right? So you take this vulnerability that they said, well, it's not an issue, but yet they go behind you and they fix it. So, for example, a high vulnerability in this case would be like, or a critical would be like, a high would be like $10,000 bounty. A critical would be like $20,000 bounty. And then what they do, and this is very, very typical, is they close it out as informational. Hey, you know what? This is just informational. Good luck. Kick you off. If you talk about this, we're going to kick you off the platform completely. And this is people's bread and butter. Some people actually, this is their full-time job, is finding bugs. And then so they just chalk it up and they're like, God, I hate this fucking, I hate them, but I'm not going to go out in the public and call them out, even though they stole my bug. They fixed it behind my back, and this isn't just these platforms, are like literally, I mean, uh, Apple's doing the same thing to hackers, right? So these hackers are submitting vulnerabilities, and even just last month, there's articles in Forbes that came out that a hacker that I know, which is really strange, like he and I were at odds with each other, and then we actually we're not friends, but we have like a really like good mutual respect. But what happened was, they screwed him so bad. Apple screwed him. They patched 0-day vulnerabilities, which is like, one of the most critical kinds of vulnerabilities that you can have on your. And he found him on an iPhone.
What's
Like,
a 0-day vulnerability for those who
so
don't
it
know?
means, so 0-day vulnerability is something that like it's live. You have no chance to fix it. There's no days to like there's no waiting any days to fix this, because it's that critical to the
Gotcha.
to the infrastructure.
So a
Like,
true
you don't have
emergency, a true emergency.
true emergency,
Okay.
right? And he had submitted these months and months ago, and so Apple quietly fixed these behind his back. And when he saw because Apple publishes the kinds of fixes that they release whenever they have a new update for the version on your iPhone, they say, hey, these is what we fixed. This is specific things. And he saw that in it's called a change log. And he just went on the offensive on Twitter, and despite whatever issues that he and I have had, he is an amazing hacker, really brilliant person, and I've always said, look, I'll stand by you if you're wronged, no matter what, just put everything aside.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I went on the offensive with him, and raised awareness, because this is a reality. It's like, you don't want hackers to break into your systems and steal your data, but yet you're screwing the hackers that are ethically reporting these issues to you, not paying them, not giving them credit for these issues, fixing these things behind their back, and you expect no retaliation?
I
You know?
don't want to put on my. I mean, first off, that's infuriating.
Yeah.
Put on my tinfoil hat here, but I'm going to. Is that this seems very much par for the course when you get into any type of big corporation conglomerate. Their modalities for, how should I put this, screwing the little guy, little
Yeah,
gal,
for sure.
are consistent across all industries. And it seems to me, because that was Verizon and Yahoo, that's a huge
Yeah,
company,
for
and
sure.
that these guys don't want to risk looking to the public like they have these vulnerabilities. So they release it to a hacking community to have you guys expose them and then deny them and then quietly
Yep.
fix them.
Yep.
And it's like similar in the, the entertainment industry. You hear these horror stories of, people submitting their scripts to studios, and studios, want to, having these script
Wow.
competitions and things like that. And then the studio basically takes the script, changes it just enough to get outside of any copyright like infringement, and will make the movie. And the writer, who's the little guy, who spent years possibly writing this particular script, perhaps decade, it takes a long time. They can't afford the legal battle because the studios have no problem. They have massive legal teams. They can throw money at it. You can't. Like, you can't afford a lawyer
Right.
to go into that battle. Even if you'll win, you can't do it. And they know that. And so they deliberately bully people. It's this bully tactic that takes place. And it seems crazy to me that they would do it to hackers, because those are the people that it seems you don't really
Yeah.
want to mess with, because
Right.
they are the ones that you're basically hiring to show vulnerability. So you already know that they have the ability to do this, and then you're screwing them on top of it. Like, those seem like the people you don't want to cross, and yet they're so brazen about it. And it seems like they probably even have, some of these people probably work for them who are trolling you after the fact. Oh, this isn't like a
For
vulnerability,
sure.
like, and
Yeah.
maybe even the website, the hacker one is
Yeah.
getting kickbacks. I don't know, but like, if they're defending this, especially to somebody who has like your pedigree within, that community, that seems very, very suspect to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting too. I mean, a lot of people even pointed out, it's like, hey, uh, when and I'm gonna pull a ranking piece too. Like if you're at the top, number one in your country, even at the top of the world, right? Uh, there's a certain level of vulnerabilities that there are certain, I mean, you submit things that are issues, right? You're not gonna, you can't win them all, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some they have their own rules, but I mean, for the most part, so the percentile of accuracy that I would submit was 99% accurate. You're never at 100% accuracy, right? There's always something that was considered either out of scope or somewhere around there, but that's what's pretty much the top percent. That's what you want. You want to be that person to submit accurate vulnerabilities, because that increases your reputation, right? Like, it's with anything else in life, like, you're right about this, so here's my record,
Yeah.
right? And so within honestly, it was within 2 months I had over 670 vulnerabilities within 2 months validated. And yet that, people are saying, well, this isn't a bug, this isn't, and people were fighting it and saying, hold on, this guy in 2 months had 670 vulnerabilities. Like, that's insane, right? Yes, this is what I did, this is what I submitted, I can't make this up. And they're like, well, why are you saying that what he submitted isn't real? Like, I mean, what the heck,
Yeah.
And and I appreciated those people that were defending. But of course, yes, there were people actually within the organization, and I would call them out, and I would say, oh, this is really becoming of you Hacker One employees, which literally said, hey, I work for Hacker One, or I work for Hacker,
Yeah.
and it's just the trolling. But either way, that it happens, and it is an issue, right? This is a very big issue in the community, because there's a lot of distrust, and what's happening now is that hackers are no longer going through this, what they would call responsible disclosure, right? They're just putting it out in the wild. They're just putting out the vulnerabilities out in the wild, and oftentimes getting ignored. So these vulnerabilities are just floating around in the world, not getting fixed, which I have literally several that are not been fixed, because I can't report it anywhere. I can't report these vulnerabilities anywhere. I try to report these vulnerabilities to the source. They don't care. They ignore it. Like, it's a complete exile from this community, which it's really strange. Not the hacker community, but the bug bounty community. It's really, really weird, really strange. It is literally like a children's playground with favorites. Honestly,
Well,
like it's it's
such
so
such
weird,
is the real world. You know, it's I think there was a
right?
song from the early 2000s called "High School Never Ends." That it like
Yeah,
that system, that social hierarchy, whatnot. Like we think it disappears once you get out of school, but it
no,
exists in the real world in just slightly varied forms. But the same tactics are there, and you can sadly never escape it. And that's why I have such an issue with like, or not an issue. I mean, to each their own. Everybody's wired different, but like the whole corporate job can never do it. Like the politics of
yeah,
that can never do
yeah.
it. Like, and because most of the time it doesn't reward the most talented or the hardest working. Like that's usually
Oh
not how
yeah.
it goes.
I mean, you definitely have knowledge of this and all the bullshit that comes along with it, man. With
Yeah,
everything that you were dealing with
yeah.
uh,
It's.
for years.
I mean, so let's. I mean, for people to understand, let's just sum that up. So this is how people are able to, I guess, vet and understand who you are, is
Sure.
through these two communities that you just now recently got exiled from. But you've had a track record with them for years and years and years that you had been
Yeah.
doing this same thing and have maintained, top global rankings
Right.
in doing it. And so outside of now this, which once again just seems even more suspect to me, that after a track record like that of doing those things over something that was, actually true. I mean, you're saying what you found was a legitimate thing and then it got fixed.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's
That
all
there,
proven.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
for
something
sure.
else going on here.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's for people, I guess, to understand, I guess, a little bit about your credibility within this, but also how just today how the hacking world actually works. That it's no more kind of cloak and dagger like it used to be.
Right.
It's very much more out in the open. You still do have the white hat black hat thing, which
Sure.
actually I guess you should probably explain that so that people know that, because I know we'll be using that terminology going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, so black hat is still considered, really the illicit activities. Let's just, ransomware groups, right? Would be, black hat hackers, for example. But hacking is a combination of things, right? So like security engineering, forensics, data, exfiltration. Like there's a big skill set involved with hacking, not just software but hardware, right? So these kinds of things are they're really useful in the world, right? But so you can go to that black side, which is the let me extort you for money. You can go to the white side, which is the white hat side, which is ethically let's ethically test systems with offensive tools and methods that are allowed by a company, right? So like a bug bounty program or it's called red teaming. So you'll be hired by a company that says, "Hey, I'm hiring you to break into our systems, and you can you'll pay you for the information that you give us back, so that we can harden our systems." Then you have that gray hat area, which is kind of very, very interesting, and a lot of gray hats are actually becoming those uh, no face, no name kind of hackers, because they sell exploits, and this is where it gets really interesting.
What does that
They
mean?
sell so yeah, selling an exploit. Let's just say that somebody finds a way to remotely install some spyware on your phone, and so there's a program. It's called Zerodium, for example, one of many in the world that will pay you, let's say, 250,000 to 500 US dollars to sell them this vulnerability that you've found. And they specifically state in their terms, and it's very bold, we sell all of our exploits to the US government. It says it in there,
Of course,
100%.
of course.
Yeah, and so they look for specific things like, can you break the encryption on Signal? Can you break the encryption on Telegram? Can you break in? Do you have an exploit for Chrome that will allow you remote access to someone else's computer? Do you have an exploit for iPhones that will allow you to be persistent, like install a program that never leaves the phone ever, ever, ever? because we'll pay you $1 million for that. And so it's real. So Zerodium is a real platform. I've submitted to them before.
Erodium?
Zerodium, Zerodium. It's kind of like Zerodium is kind of a play on 0 day.
Gotcha.
And they've so this gray hatting is quite a growing field, because there's a lot of ethics questions involved, and clearly moral, right? So moral being personal and ethics being business, and I mean, it's there's a lot of questions there now. Even as of recently, the U.S. government has sanctioned the selling of hacking tools or vulnerabilities to specific, they sanctioned the selling of these things to specific countries. So if you're an American, you're trying to sell to these countries, like there's these rules, but of course, who's going to monitor this? Who's going to regulate this? Who's going to say, hey, I know that you sold this vulnerability to, the Israelis or the Czech Republic or whatever it is, whoever,
So I'm assuming
Ukraine.
The people most interested in this are then government, because you're finding vulnerabilities within, I mean, unless it's a vulnerability within a government platform, but I mean, then if you do that, then you're breaking the law. So it seems to be that it's only vulnerabilities in the private sector. And the government then is, which according to the fine print of what you're just saying, is all ultimately sold to them, because they're the ones wanting the vulnerabilities in all of these big companies, right?
Yeah.
Am I tracking that correctly?
That's it. It's 100%. Yeah. And it's not even fine print. It's like
bold letters.
In your, it's bold letters in your face, literally says, we sell this to the U.S. government. And it's the allure, right? It's I mean, who wouldn't want 500 grand? Right.
Sorry, I was just curious to clarify, where then would people in the black hat, white hat, gray hat idea, where would people who then sell out to the government and work for them, what are they, a white hat or a black hat? I guess it depends on what they're doing. Probably a black hat.
Yeah, it depends on so that really, it does. This is a very interesting point too, right? So it depends on, I mean, if you're doing if you're an asset like I was with the government, it depends, right? Like it depends. Like what's your task is? Are you doing counterterrorism? Or honestly, it depends. But the one thing I've done a lot of work for the government, and for specific agencies. I can't say anything bad about them. That's one thing, right?
Legally, or you just
legally can't say no. I think it comes down,
appears on your forehead. You're like, I can't say
I know,
anything
right?
bad about them.
It comes down to I guess what the task is, and what you feel about the task. I guess my ethos has changed a lot. Let's say that, right? My ethos has changed a lot, and so this is kind of it depends on the person, man. It depends on what the person is feeling, and how.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything's subjective, right? I mean, so you can be doing work and literally have zero conscience about it, or not think that people deserve freedom or privacy, and so you don't think anything you're doing is wrong. So,
right.
I mean, I guess it's completely subjective. Like, how do you rate that?
It's tough. That's a tough one, right? And then there's a lot of other factors as far as, well, if you're being told that what you're doing is to protect the American people, and then it's used in a way that's against the American people, right? So there's that. It's kind of a, absolutely. Yeah. It's like it's a mind fuck, honestly, right? Like in a lot of ways, it is something that you have to analyze. Like you have to truly come in, truly analyze yourself and look in yourself and say, what am I even doing?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I had to do for my, it's exactly what I had to do. And why is my life like going downhill? Oh, it's because I'm creating spyware. That it's like, this is why my life is going downhill, and I'm upset about, like, oh, somebody stole all this money from me, but yet I'm creating spyware and people are telling me it's okay. This is just a feature.
Well, we're gonna get to that.
Wait. Yes.
Because that's a big part of your history
Right.
within this space as well.
Right.
I do, before we go on, I also want to talk about you being an asset to the intelligence agencies, because that's so Jason Bourne. I can't even handle it. We've lost another asset.
Yeah.
Very spy thriller. But I do want to just wrap up black hat, white hat, gray hat. And you said that you've done for the Z, what was it called again?
So Zerodium is a platform like
So you've done something for them?
So I've submitted to them, and it wasn't denied. It was just they weren't accepting this vulnerability at the time. But
Can you talk
the
about
vulnerability?
what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. It breaks into every single LG phone in the world in the stealth mode.
So full control over any person's LG phone. Anybody that has LG capabilities, or no, LG is in the phone. I think it's 5G.
LG specifically a phone.
Yeah.
But I think it's because that they're discontinued now, and so for them, I guess it wasn't a new technology. Latest, they just discontinued it beginning of this year. They discontinued making phones. So I mean, but this affected tabs, tablets, and it's funny because I was like, you know what, one last little hoorah, I guess, and let me see what I can earn. And yeah, I mean, and I wanted to also see what was the big hype, what was the big deal, and I guess also in deep down, it was like, well, I want to prove to everybody that you're saying that what I'm putting out is bullshit, right? So, I'm going to show you that I can be accepted into this, this Zerodium program, which again, they didn't accept it. They didn't accept it because they didn't need it at the time. But the issue, it persists, right? So here is the problem. So I submitted this vulnerabilities. It breaks into every LG phone in the world with stealth mode, and so basically it can install a program without your knowledge. It can persist inside of the phone without your knowledge, and clearly that's an issue, right? This is how spyware is spread. So once I went to Zerodium, I suppose like my full I suppose my transformation, I guess was complete in the sense that, like, hey, you know what, this is, if I keep doing something like this, I'm not gonna live a fruitful life or life of any substance, to me at least. But I reported it to LG themselves, and they said specifically, yes, we know about this backdoor, but at this point there's nothing we can do about it. And I have it in writing. I have it in an email.
Which is crazy because, sure, they discontinued it, but how many tens of millions of those phones are still in circulation and being used?
Yeah, around the world. And mainly in third world countries. Mainly in third world countries is where they are. Unbelievable.
Wow. I
mean, literally, their own words. We knew about this, but we cannot do anything about this. And so it was just even more about, and so I said, wow, well, this is nuts. So I reported, I stopped trying to do the big Zerodium stuff. So I reported another one to Samsung, which also allowed me to access Samsung mobile devices in a stealth mode without authorization, like without, bypassing all the security. They too acknowledged that this existed, and they said, well, we fixed this in the Android 11 in our phones, which is not true. It's false. They haven't fixed it.
So you tested it in Android 11 after the fact?
100%. I have the emails too, but here's the thing, is that they knew about this, right? They knew about this for over 10 years. And that's the thing. And it's funny because, again, they're saying, well, we fixed this, and every time they were telling me that they fixed it, and I said, no, you didn't. And I would take a video, and they said, and they would find, and they would say, well, oh, because you're doing this first, then that's why it's working. And I said, okay, I won't do that.
Well,
I took
even
another
then,
video.
that still shows a vulnerability.
Right. And so exactly. So,
No,
so I would take another
you
video.
didn't do it the way we fixed it for you.
Right.
You worked around that. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
So I took another video. So 3 videos later, they were like, well, it's been fixed. That's it. And that's it. And again, I have all these emails. I have all these emails. I have all these videos that I've submitted. And, I've been posting stuff. I post on the Twitter regularly just to show people, like, this is the reality of our security. This is the real emails. This is the real videos. This is the real stuff. They say it's not an issue. So have at it. Go at it. Right. What? I can't get in trouble for it, clearly, because you're literally saying in an email it's not an issue, except it bypasses all kinds of security protocols and you name it.
This is something people need to be aware of, and I think we've had this conversation maybe in the past. How big business works, how big corporations work. And this is told me by a trial lawyer for class action, corporate trial lawyer. And he was explaining to me, as it pertained to this issue I can't get into, but it's pertained to a business practice of particular companies. And he goes, you need to understand something. He goes, they've been breaking this law, these particular company. Like, they've been breaking this law for how long they've been in business? 45 years? 45 years, right? They know this. They know they've been breaking the law. They know what they're doing is wrong. They're very aware of it. But they also know that the statute of limitations only goes back 4 years. So to them, it is actually a calculated business decision. They would rather risk breaking the law, knowing that most people aren't going to sue them. Most people aren't going to stand up and champion it because, for one, it's terrifying. 2, nobody has the legal, fees to do it. Or if, you're going to do a class action, like, that's years and years and years of your life that you're like, the face of like a lawsuit type thing.
Sure.
They will commit blatant, whether it's atrocities or just, violations of the law and people's, rights. They will do this knowingly, because to them, it's a calculated risk that at worst, if somebody happens to decide to stand up, you get that one person who's like, you know what, like, I am going to go to bat for everybody else, for all the people who've been, inflicted by this or have, been violated by this. I'm going to be the one to go to bat for it. And we're going to take them down. They know that even then, and most people won't do that. Most people are terrified to do that. They know that as well. They know the human condition very well.
Yeah.
Even then, it's 4 years that they'll have to pay back out of however many decades they've been getting away with it. 4 years of back, pay, reimbursement, whatever it may be, and then some, penalties and legal fees. And, so maybe calculate out to, 6 years worth of payback. And they got away with it for 50 years, 100 years,
right,
whatever the case may be. It is actually a calculated risk that they do. And so most of these companies are knowingly breaking the law in particular areas, because to them, it's like, well, we get sued. If we get sued, if someone even first off has to know that this is breaking the law, and 2, or in this case of hacking, have to see that this vulnerability exists and then prove that we're aware of it, like all this stuff to them, even then, if we get sued, it's 4 years, 4 years back.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy,
that's
man.
the way it goes. Yeah. That's it. And even recently, like a lot of things have come out with, Qualcomm chips. They knew for like over a decade that their chips had vulnerabilities inside of them that allowed you to break into them, install spyware, and it doesn't matter about the operating system version. It doesn't matter which version of iOS you were on. It doesn't matter which version of Android you were on. None of that mattered because the chip had the vulnerability in it. And I've been posting about this and like kind of exposing this, exposing people to the truth of that. Like, literally, this is what's happening. And it's being received well, especially with all the Pegasus stuff going around. Pegasus spyware is everywhere, which the Americans are finally catching on a little bit about what is Pegasus spyware. But essentially, it's like, well, if it doesn't affect Americans right now, well, what doesn't matter in the world.
What is Pegasus spyware?
Yeah, so Pegasus spyware is a it's it's one of the nastiest spyware that's been around in the world. So, I mean, it's been in our phones for like almost 12 years, and so this is,
When you say in
gosh,
our phones, what do you mean?
in our phones,
Every
it's
phone?
been in, not every phone, but
Every company, like
yeah.
including Apple
Well,
and
let's just say around the world, I think that there was a statistic that was about 85% of all cell phones in the world were infected by this spyware,
wow.
which is how uh, there was there's a reporter, Jamal Khashoggi. I don't know if I can say that last name correctly, but he was he was actually murdered because he was spied on, and he was going to expose some things in the Middle East, and this is kind of didn't spark, like, we've known about this for a long time, but it wasn't until this murder happened that it kind of really brought it out to to the forefront of the media, because I mean, we're talking about, so the French president was spied on, and his phone was compromised, and I mean, just countless amounts of political figures are actually being targeted. Not just political figures, but I mean, like, human rights activists. I mean, just general public. I mean, there's students in Mexico that were actually abducted by the spyware was actually tracking them and monitoring all their text messages, and so this spyware was being sold. So they say by a company called the NSO Group. They're out of Israel, and so they would sell this spyware technology to governments around the world, and but it got out of hand, essentially. So point is, Amnesty International and Citizen Labs came together, and well, Citizen Labs actually found the spyware first, and then Amnesty International continued this effort to find the spyware with other human rights defenders, and then they found spyware in a lot of people's devices, and they teamed up with people around the world to kind of narrow down how we were getting infected. So a lot of the ways that we were getting infected were like text messages. So we would get these random ass text messages coming to our phones, iPhone, Android, whatever, and it's like, well, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
Or a pop-up would come up on our phones, would say, like, re-enter your Gmail password when you hadn't reset it. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. So I still get shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how this spyware would work. So once you send that message, you don't. They're called zero clicks. So you don't have to do anything. You can actually push cancel. It doesn't matter. At that point, you're already infected, and it persists.
So you're saying that with this, iPhones are completely susceptible to this as well?
Oh, 100%. So it's like one of the worst, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of times people think, Apple, given how proprietary it is, that they are the most, invulnerable to
safe,
to being hacked.
No, it's actually one of the worst.
So so whenever people receive these texts, because I know people who are going to be listening to this have definitely received these random text messages with a link, or a FedEx one. I get that shit all the time, where like, oh yeah, check your tracking number, your package, or emails or anything. Is that if you click on it, even if you don't enter anything, just clicking on the link itself, that will be enough to infect your phone?
It doesn't even matter to click. It doesn't matter. You don't have to even click on it. You can shut your phone off even when you get it. But it's called a zero click. Like, you don't have to click on anything. It just sends to you, and then you're infected.
What?
Yeah. That's the big issue, right? And so the thing is, Apple knew about this, and in iPhone iOS version, I mean, it was a 14.8. They publicly came out and said, "Hey, look, we patched this issue where the spyware was able to get into your phone for a decade, and we patched it. It's fixed. Don't worry about it." They didn't patch it. They didn't patch anything. I mean, they like, whatever they thought that they knew is completely wrong, because 2 weeks later, human rights defenders in Palestine were infected with Pegasus spyware on the latest operating system versions.
Wow.
And so what I'm saying is, so Apple publicly came out acknowledging that their systems were vulnerable to the point where this is how Pegasus spyware was infecting people around the world. I mean, Android's like, yeah, we know about it. We get it, but we're Android, so we're not really we're kept to the lowest standards.
Enter your own risk. You know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our standards are already super low. So, I mean, do you want a $20 cell phone in the US or not? What's the problem?
Do you want 5 free phones with your family plan or not?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, look, I like Androids. Actually, it's funny. Android, yeah, I joke like that because it's they're more open source. So they have an open source, like you can basically make your own version of Android and drop it into whatever cell phone you want to. That's the reason why I jest about that, because they know that they're open source and you're more vulnerable when you're open source. But the thing is Apple kind of makes fun of Android and says, we're more secured because, Android, you're allowed to actually install your own apps on there. We don't allow you to install apps on iPhones, so that makes us less vulnerable. Okay. Yeah, that's a lie. But yeah. So the thing is this is a really big issue. It's a humanitarian issue, quite frankly,
safety issue, man. I mean, like people are losing their lives, getting kidnapped. Like this is being used to spy on people who would be whistleblowers, or have any information that could threaten, any regime, any government, any big business. And
well, this is not just that though, right? So I've it's people like you and me, right? Like it's people like your brothers, people like your family, like anybody, like your wife, like these kinds of things are like it targets just everyone, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone is susceptible to this, and then all that data is gathered, and then what's happening with that information, right, is only to be determined. But as we know, even in China right now, they have this social rating system, right? So right, and so all these facial recognitions, biometrics, other data points about you that are combined in your social rating system prevents you from either riding a train or getting a certain kind of job, or entering a restaurant, or even being a party to some sort of a political event or whatever. It's already affecting people around the world. The data gathering is the game, right? How much data can we gather on the people to build these profiles on them so that we can essentially control their way of life, like take away their sovereignty, and so that they can adhere to our rules. This is where the world is turning to. Who owns the data is the king.
Yeah. Well, that's also, what the U.S. is very clearly doing, and this current administration is very much trying to turn us into China. And you can see the writing's on the wall, whether people want to, look at it or not. It's there. And I mean, it's been there, honestly, since, the Bush administration, since the Patriot Act. And I remember how many people, when the Patriot Act was implemented, were like, well, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about. Like, if you're not, I'm like, you are so short-sighted. Like, this has nothing to do with if you have anything to hide. This has to do with a complete violation of your privacy. Right. And all of that data that they're collecting on you, which people like Snowden completely, blew the whistle on. Right. And thank God for him. Thank God for WikiLeaks. Thank God for people like you, who come out and explain to the general public what's actually happening. But the Patriot Act never went away. It only got stronger. It only is able to violate more of our rights. And just because they're not spying on you, they're still recording everything. There's servers that under the Obama administration, they put up somewhere in, I don't know, Utah, like thousands of acres of just servers for the intelligence agencies where they are storing everything, man. Every message you've ever sent, phone call, like social media, it's all there in the event that they need it. And the only thing that's keeping that from completely shutting down your life and your freedom or creating a social credit score like in China is a dictatorship taking over the government, is a new regime coming in that is going to take all of that data, all of that information and completely use it to suppress the people. And the same thing is happening now with COVID. Like, this was the last vestige. If you think about the violations of our freedoms that have taken place, never mind what people think about COVID. I mean, teach their own with it. But as it pertains to force vaccinating people, as it pertains to legally taking away humans' rights to control what goes in their body, which, I mean, I guess they've been doing with the war on drugs for a long time, but that's keep preventing you from putting something in your body. This is forcing you to put something in your body. That is like the last step. If you give up the sovereignty over your body, you've already given over your privacy, but you're giving up your very DNA, your very body. That is like the final piece. And with that is total control. And while it may, you may think like, oh, I'm just going to play ball. It's easier to do this. It's only easier until the one day they flip the switch, and then you're completely under control. Like, if you want to ever change the government or do anything like that, they have a profile on every single person. They know you better than you know yourself from a psychological standpoint. They know what your next logical move would be. They know your porn habits. They know how to get to you in ways you can never even fathom. And that's already existed. And now we're taking that one step further with, medical totalitarianism. And it hasn't been cracked down yet. Like, it hasn't been taken over by some radical government yet that's, a Kim Jong-un or something. Like, it's all there. And we've given it up for free. And right now the real risk is like, some nefarious actors, who would be the black hats around the world who are going to take advantage of certain things, and these holes and these gaps and whatever else that exists that they can, infect your phone and at a smaller scale or whatever. But we've given up like everything.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the thing is that, I've heard a lot of people say, well, who cares? They already have everything. But here's the catch. So we would say this, people would say this is for years and years. It doesn't matter. They already have it. Nothing's, I'm not doing anything wrong. Who cares? But then here comes the metaverse. Mm-hmm. And so now that we have all these data points on you and all these things that we know about you, we can understand and build profiles on you, and we can create virtual yous when you've never been in the metaverse before. You've never stepped foot in there. You've never even accessed it, and you've never had a meeting in it or anything. But we can recreate you. We can recreate your voice. We can recreate the way that you walk, your gait, or we can recreate all these characteristics. And so when you join that meeting, that is you. And the people will listen. And the people will say, that is the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I heard him speak in the metaverse. And so this is why we went to this protest. Or I heard this, this political figure or this activist say this. And so this is why we burnt down these buildings. Because he was there. That was his voice. I know him. I can hear him. And I saw him in the metaverse. So we did this in,
reacted accordingly.
So there's a lot of things that this is a new world.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't just future. This is happening now. Like, Facebook's turned to Meta. This has been happening. Like, the metaverse has been existing for a while. And now that with Facebook just saying, we're going to be jumping into the metaverse, things are about to change drastically. And what you think that you didn't care about before, you're going to care about, because all these pictures that you've been taking in your home, and let's scan my house and build a virtual room, and let's use LiDAR to get every single point in my home. And so now you're literally allowing everyone, all that data, to create this virtual world in which someone can go in the metaverse, walk around your own house, look around the corner and say, yeah, I know exactly where they're hiding something, or I know exactly I can look at that picture frame. And then when I walk into your home, I know exactly where, if I'm going to go raid your house, I'm going to look at your house in the metaverse first. I'm going to put all these things together. I'm going to know what kind of sheets that you use. I'm going to know how you sleep. I'm going to actually sleep in the same bed that you sleep in, so I can actually get a feel for how you rest. So I can know which side you turn on, because all these things, all these cameras, all these videos, all these things that you're taking, all these data points are being translated into the metaverse so that you can create a virtual world in a way that you've never, ever seen before. And now you're going to start caring about all the data points that you're allowing to go out there. Because when somebody starts recreating the home that your children sleep in, and they start walking around in it and sleeping in the bed that you sleep in virtually, I think you're going to start having an issue with people collecting all your data. Or maybe you just don't really give a shit.
We don't care. It doesn't affect me. Like,
it doesn't affect me. Just go ahead and sleep in the same bed as my children. That's fine. Virtually
it doesn't affect me, and I got nothing to hide. Is what's led us to where we are today. And I mean,
sleep in the same bed as my children. That's fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. God,
wow.
I mean, I also think too. I mean, in addition to that, what we're already doing with deep fakes, like how insanely real those are, and that's not in the metaverse. Like, we're already doing that. We can fool people on an actual video, watching that, like, and people watch it and think that it's actually the president talking, or it's actually, you know, whoever talking, a celebrity. Like, and that is already here, and AI is only perfecting that further.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
It's crazy, man. Like, you know, let's do this. I know you're running short on time, and we're going to basically end up breaking this up into like a 3-part interview, most likely, because there's so much to cover, and we haven't even really got into it. But you said a couple things as it pertained to some of these vulnerabilities. You were giving examples, and I kind of want you to explain a little bit to the audience a few key ones that people should be aware of that will affect their day-to-day life. And then in the next episode, we're going to dive into your history with phone security, because that's been a big focus, the company you had and everything therein. And that's obviously a vital part of our lives. It's an extension of us now. And the things that you did in that space and revealed and whatnot, I think would be very interesting for people to know. We're going to dive into Apple's hidden vulnerability. That this is a bombshell thing that people definitely need to hear about, and something that you've even shown people. You've done demonstrations on, just proving that this is real and this is there, and they don't care. And we'll dive deeper into a number of other things in future episodes. I'm blanking on all of them right now because there's so many things. But what I want to do really quick is, you mentioned Signal, you mentioned like WhatsApp. Everybody who uses Signal, I am one of them, and I know, you know, more and more people are hopping on that.
Sure.
You know, my brother told me about that like 5 years ago. He said, get on this, and Snowden backed it as well on Joe Rogan. But I've heard things, and I'm curious if this is what you were referencing, that one aspect of it's not secure. Either it's the text is secure and the audio calls or the calls are not secure, or vice versa. Which is it, and what vulnerabilities were you speaking about before?
Yeah, so particularly the so let's just say like the media exchange is not, I know personally, right, by doing my own research, the media exchange is not secured. So let's just say I send you a picture or a voice message. We can actually extract that data from the computer that you're on, or the phone that you're on, pull it off of the device without any issue, without without having to decrypt it or anything. I mean, it's just available to us immediately. And you know, it's not good, right? That you don't have to have any sort of hash or anything to pull this information and extract it or decompress it, right? So this is a big issue. There's a lot of other vulnerabilities that are out there right now that allow you to actually intercept these communications without any encryption, right? And these are the kinds of things that are I think that actually one of these things was patched recently
with Signal,
okay. Right? But still, the further that we go in, and the more patches we place, as you can imagine, just like anything else, keep putting a patch and putting a patch and putting a patch. Well, you're just patching, right? That's the issue. You're not actually fixing the root. But to actually fix the root of the issue takes a lot of resources. That's That's how it is. And instead of taking those resources and actually creating a solid platform, it just turns out to be all about the dollars.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what happens. I mean,
Just like LG.
WhatsApp is like LG, right? Yeah. We knew about it. We're just going to take us to, it's how it is. So I mean, there's other platforms.
So Signal, you're saying so audio, message, picture, videos, anything you're sending over it, media is not secured, but the texts themselves are secured.
No, it's not. It's not.
So nothing's really secure in Signal.
It's not. But this is the thing, right? You know, you have to take other measures, right? As far as, let's just say, maybe send images through a different platform, or you send text. It just depends on what you're sending too, right? Most people are not going to be sending things that are, well, anything that you send is actually really personal, right? Yeah. It's personal, yeah. One to one, that's what it is. So I really can't say it's not important. It's important to you. You sent it, and it's your data, and no one should have it but you. So I suppose it comes down to how much risk are you willing to take, and but at the same time, you would have to disconnect yourself from the world, if you really wanted something secured. But even in that sense, I mean, we got satellites that can listen in on you. I mean, the world is what it is, and we have to adapt to it, live in it the way it is, and we can do our best to secure it. But I think overall it comes down to, if there was transparency in which the companies were saying these are the actual data points that we're harvesting from you, rather than wrapping it up in legal jargon and saying, XYZ and like super, broad speak, I think that the American people and then the world as a whole could possibly maybe accept it more, or even if there was some sort of a vote, right, or some sort of a, hey, we don't want these data points, right, or where are you using? If you're transparent about where the data is going, that would be a better world, I suppose.
Well, people could also make a sovereign decision whether or not, okay, I'm not going to partake. I'm not going to use this. And there used to be protections. Remember back in the day, like big tech couldn't get away with certain things. They can get away with anything now. Like, I mean, they are getting away with everything. Anything and everything.
Yeah, especially after COVID, it just got worse, right? Because, tracking, it's a COVID tracker. It's a, we got a, what do they call it? Tracing, or COVID tracing, or whatever. I mean, it's wow, this is a great way to know where everyone in the world is. And, but yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit.
We'll get into that in the next episode, as well as a classified document that found its way onto, I think, an Amazon server, correct, or somewhere, something like that.
Yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, this is a good one for next episode.
With, COVID and what's in the vaccines. Very, very, very interesting stuff. And I know you have to go. I mean, talk about you. I mean, not only are you about to, in the near future, launching your own crypto, but you're also head of security, right, for another crypto company or exchange.
I'm a lead mobile pen tester for Celo, CELO. It's one of the top 100 cryptos in the world, and securing cryptocurrency and securing the metaverse is what I'm doing right now, and putting out Pegasus spyware samples so people can research them is what I'm also doing. And I work with human rights groups around the world, teaching them mobile forensics and offensive and defensive techniques in regard to mobile security. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I must head off to do it.
Well, I'm very excited to pick this up. And wish we could have got it all in tonight, but good things come to those who wait. So we will break this up into possibly 2, maybe even 3 episodes, because I know a lot of the information that you have to share is incredibly important for people to hear, and fascinating on top of it. No matter what your stance may be, if you're one of the doomsdays, or if you are I got nothing to hide,
Yeah,
whichever side
exactly.
you find
Come in,
yourself on.
sleep in my children's bed.
Yeah.
That's fine in the metaverse. Come on
All's
in.
good over here. There's
It's
nothing to
fine.
worry about.
Yep.
So yeah, man, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to round 2. So we'll hopefully get that here in the next couple days. Other than that, Data, man, good to see you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Good
you
to
being
see you,
here.
man. Until next time.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end. Me too. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, share with all of your friends across every social media platform. And then if you have time, go to NateKnightTalks.com and join the NNT community and research database if you have time and the resources and want to support what I'm doing here.